Smarter in seconds. Critical thinking. Critical thinking is the internal process of analysis, reflection, and evaluation of information. Improve your critical thinking skills with these 6 steps. Be curious. Fight assumptions. Find credible sources. Consider perspectives. Keep an open mind for well-cited information. Stay skeptical of unfounded claims. When we are confronted with new information, critical thinking allows us to form, examine, and reevaluate our beliefs and values. Remember to think critically. You got this.
Smarter in seconds.
We'll be here 5 minutes. Hold the line.
The advantage of guys haunting.
I'm in this year mobile.
Team mix up.
I'm gonna suck you a good one right in the kisser.
You need a paddle ticket.
Levitate.
How many times? You think we ain't felt all the things? How many times? We say we oppose taxation. What about the roads? How many times? What about the wage?
I know a lot of people believe that in this woke thing as something that's real or whatever, and they don't want to kill people, right? There's a lot of those people. There definitely are some that want to, for sure. But I know there's some that are just like, this stuff is annoying, and it's, I don't like it when it makes me think of this stuff when I'm watching a movie, and those people exist. If you're one of those people, I would consider that probably the people that do want to kill people and want to exterminate people, they might have been where you're at some point, where just for them, a couple of years ago or something, it was just annoying. Two people can be saying the same word and thinking almost completely different things. We're in agreement, right? We both hate wokeness. Well, this guy's thinking he just, I just don't like whenever they put Black Lives Matter messages in my TV shows. And this other guy's thinking, I want to kill black people.
That's the first step in radicalization right there.
You're more worried about him being gay than anybody else, man. Like, I think you're more worried about him being gay than the guy he fucks, his husband.
In 30 days, Air July has made roughly 62 videos. I'm not including live streams. These are just videos. 24 of those 62 videos, the topic of the video was either specifically gay, trans, anti-queer, diversity, like that umbrella. That's a little bit over 40%. We're talking about coming up on half of the percentage of content he puts out is exclusively made as anti-queer content. He said at the beginning of the year, as a business person, he was going to focus on his company and his brand. How many videos do you think in the last 30 days on his channel actually focused on Ripaverse exclusively? 6. 6 out of 62 videos actually focused exclusively on Ripaverse. That's less than 10% of the videos in the last 30 days.
Somebody please think of the children.
The only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. It's very upsetting. It has a bad moral effect.
Forced adversity.
Skin color prejudice? That's so pathetic, it's almost quaint. It ain't quaint.
Ask yourself, what's more terrifying, fear or the frightened?
The facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Bad, B-A-D-D, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Up yours, woke moralists.
Socialism has spread the shadow of human regimentation over most of the nations of the earth.
And they're pushing identity politics with this. They 100% are.
How do you think homosexuals reveal themselves?
And the shadow is encroaching upon our own liberty.
I think there ought to be a law against them. Tonight I'm going to show you why.
Yeah, we're going to show you some stuff. You know what I'm going to show you? I'm going to show you GM Morgan.
And I'm going to tell you some stuff.
And Morgan's going to tell you some shit and some stuff. And I'm going to react to yeah. Those are the reactions. That's my range right there. Anyway.
Your Oscar's in the mail, I'm sure.
Thank you.
It's going to be delivered by a naked John Cena.
all I've ever asked for. What's funny is that I saw like was it Benny Johnson or one of these freaking chuds? One of the, I don't know. It was like trying to say that because he did that, he's like actually not masculine.
What?
He's like, like that like makes him like a weak bitch or something. It's like, dude. I mean, say that to his face for one thing.
Right? Yeah. Please say that to John Cena's face so he can laugh at you. Because John Cena's a class act like that, so he wouldn't just like slap you around.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's like, have you ever noticed, by the way, that like the only two emotional expressions that chuds are comfortable generally expressing are like laughter, as in mockery,
scorn,
laughing at
mockery.
somebody, or like scorn, anger, rage.
Yeah.
That's about it.
That they don't know how to enjoy things, right? Like they enjoyed things at a time and they want things to go back to that time, but because that time does not exist anymore, because that's not how time works.
And they also, because they have developed, they've I guess whittled down their ability to feel joy, so that it's an impossible standard they can never get to.
Right.
And that's kind of blowing my mind right now. That like, they're constantly wanting a moment in time that existed back whenever they had the ability to even experience joy.
Right.
Even though they don't have the ability to experience joy. And wow, man.
In that moment, even if they could somehow make it real, and even if their nostalgia was 100% accurate, it is forever distant. What's
a mosey? I don't know. What is a mosey? Is this a joke?
What's a mosey with you?
Why don't you mosey on over here and I don't know. Is that where that's going?
I have no idea. The Crawling Chaos said scam leak and suck a mosey. I don't know what a mosey is though. So.
Oh, I see. I didn't see that originally. Wait. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to talk about Gamergate today. Just a small topic. It's not a big deal.
Not at all. No, there's not a remake shooting right now live.
Yeah, it's. Look, I'll be honest. It's a crappy one. It's not getting off the ground.
I hope not. I hope it dies on the vine.
Yeah, that one. That's the one. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the guy.
So there was a guy in the old intro, the old FAP intro that one second. Oh, okay. Sorry, I gotten some messages all of a sudden.
Oh,
comedian Dean, what are you doing messaging me right when the FAP starts? Come on, get in here, man. Watch the FAP.
Yeah, Dane is busy fapping. Why are you messaging him? Don't interrupt his FAP.
Don't message me when I'm fapping.
We're not calling it that, Byron. It is the remake. For it to be 2, it would have to have something new.
Oh my god, guys! Like Gordy, there's this little tiny box that Jen got Gordy a new toy, and it's a little box that came in, and he, more than playing with the toy, he's been trying to fit his head in this, like I guess his whole body in this little tiny box, and it's adorable. I have photos. I'll have to upload those momentarily once you get started, so we can take a pause and look at those later.
Sure.
But for now, I have this that's kind of relevant because we're talking about Gamergate. The reason is obviously, I think it's obvious. The whole Sweet Baby Ink thing is a thing that people are talking about. They're not talking about it as much as people talked about Gamergate. I'm sorry, they're just not.
They're not. No, they're trying. They're trying really hard, but at this point, I don't think they're going to be able to make it a thing, especially because I don't think now that the right-wing commentators that aren't gaming adjacent are fighting with Matt Walsh.
Yeah, well, they're not anymore because look, you got the healer here, Jeremy Griggs. He's they spoke privately and he's had a good conversation. They understand each other's perspective a little better. So I'm just wondering how they met in the things. What is it? The games are like terrible and bad and just shouldn't exist.
They're for children, and so adults shouldn't care.
Yeah,
adults shouldn't like. Let me back up. Not adults. Men shouldn't like things. Men should not have entertainment. Men should experience no joy, no happiness.
Yeah.
They are allowed to shed a single tear the birth of their child, but only if it is a male. And
you must immediately collect that tear and burn it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really bizarre. That, like, I mean, he just says it right there. It's like, the enemy is the left-wing
right.
What left-wing activists? Why is it that anybody who is not a chud, basically anybody who's not MAGA, and they have a job somewhere, they're an activist, right?
But like everyone who does not, well, yeah, and I think I can tell you why. I actually, I think this comes from Gamergate.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, where if you are not part of their movement, because their movement isn't political, right? They want to get politics out of things, quote unquote. So that means everyone who is not them, whether they're questioning them, whether they're opposed to them, then they are they must be activists because they're being political.
Well, I mean, you know what, guys? I'm gonna make a video about this too. I strongly encourage all of you, from now on, as much as possible, as much as you think of it, refer to these people as right-wing activists. Seriously.
Yeah.
They are, like, by any standard that they're using, for sure. I mean, we know that they are anyway, but like, we should call them that. Just make sure it's known. Like, don't let it slip out of your mind that, like, because the main thing that these people need in order to succeed is an air of legitimacy, that they're legitimately concerned and they legitimately care about this and that. And it's like, or that they're real fans that give a shit about the blah, blah, blah. They don't. It's all about power. It's fascist power.
Another part of that is there's an air of deniability that, oh, I'm not a right-wing commentator. I'm a gaming commentator. Yeah.
So, but yeah, they're a gaming commentator that isn't right-wing, but whenever it's somebody who works at a video game developer or writer or something like that, because they know that you inherently do, everything you do is going to include your morals and fucking ethics and stuff. And like, that's what politics essentially are, is an practical application of morals and ethics, like how we're going to, treat people, each other in our fucking society and shit.
Right.
And so like the fact that they've conflated politics with so much of that, like just like having a I don't know, set of standards for what you think. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's not the point.
No, it makes it though. Like, you have you don't want to seem political because you've either convinced people that being political is bad, because they want that deniability of saying, oh, we don't want women. It's not that we don't want women in game. It's that we don't want games to be political.
Right.
We don't want black or brown people in games. We didn't say that. We don't want it to be political.
Well,
and even like, I've seen one recently where it's like, oh, why are these video game bad guys? Why are these video games about white bad guys? And the bad guys in those games are religious fundamentalists in one, and the other is Wolfenstein, so it's Nazis. It's like, well, pro tip, you can be a white person and not be a Nazi or a religious extremist.
Right.
Like, you are conflating those two things because you're dishonest.
Well, it's also like, the Batman and Ryan Kennel just complaining about how there's all of the good guys, or all the heroes, all the good characters are not white. And it's like, you mean except Batman, the one who is, he's the good one. He's the best one, right? Like, he's supposedly the one. Like, fuck off, man. Like,
and like Alfred helps a whole bunch too, and he's white, and they even made Alfred like.
Well, he's from New Zealand. That's not really the same thing as white, is it?
Goddamn.
That's barely human. No, I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. New Zealand people, I love you. I love New Zealand. I want to go there. Please have me come there. Pay for me to come there. Sorry.
No, but like,
I don't know why I just decided to take a swipe at New Zealand. It's not.
It's fine, because there was that video you shared about New Zealand the other day.
Oh yeah. So just real quick, we are going to be talking about Gamergate. It's an inherently little bit of a warmish button issue, especially now. If you are of the Gamergate, variety, and you're like still somebody that subscribes to that school of thought or whatever, we're definitely going to say things that you don't like.
You don't want to hear it. You should listen. Maybe learn something.
You're definitely going to disagree with probably our reasons for our timeline of things. There's probably some of you that aren't on the Gamergate side that might disagree with it, because there's just kind of a clusterfuck of information around all of this, and it's really difficult to sort through. And Morgan has done the work of this. I've barely done anything, but Morgan has done the work of cutting through. Like, you start looking into what Gamergate is about, and you're going to get so many different people telling you a lot of different details. Yes, it's about ethics and gaming journalism. Yeah, but then they're going to start piling on the narratives. It's like if you've ever tried to understand the Comicsgate lore. It's these things inherently just become a fucking mess of narratives and agendas and perspectives that like discount each other and then deny things and then blah blah blah. It's a fucking mess, man. If you don't like what we have to say, that's fine. Go say what you want to say somewhere else. That's all I'm gonna say.
And don't. I got my band Thunderhammer here. I'm gonna swing it judiciously. So
yeah,
be warned.
Upgrade.
Yep. So.
Oh, should do the hey, it's St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
So before we get to the Gamergate thing, actually,
okay,
I want to talk a bit about anti-Irish sentiment. I'm an Irishman. I mean, not of the homeland, of course, but I very obviously am somewhat of that way, right? Like I'm Scotch Irish, right? I'm Scotch Irish and German, like all the worst ones, really. So anti-Irish sentiment was a thing. I mean, it still maybe is to some degree, but like not anything that matters. But like, yeah, and the reason I want to talk about it is because one, the historical existence of anti-Irish sentiment shows that race is fucking meaningless. That whiteness is meaningless, rather.
Right.
And that race in general is also, ultimately meaningless. But like, whiteness is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. It is a social construct, the same way the fucking gender is. Except, whereas like, you shouldn't want to be like, I identify as white. Why? Don't do that. You know what I mean? But it's Italian, similar thing. Basically now Italians, Irish people, they're generally seen as white.
Right.
If you get some people these days that move to America from there, they're white people instantly. They're just white. Nobody ever questions it. You might get, somebody might distinguish because of Italian or something like that, but that's just because, they have their Italian flavor going on.
Right.
And we love that. But nonetheless, it shows that it at a certain point, the US got over it, right? Because it's not just a very, sometimes you can tell when somebody's Irish, like really tell that somebody's Irish. You can probably tell I am. But it's not the same thing as a black person, which is like, it's just a black person. It's a different colored person, right? Like, or actually a colored person, rather. I shouldn't say that. I'm fucking this up big time. I'm sorry. I didn't have it prepared. But like they are of melanin persuasion, right? And it's distinct from just, it's easy for white people to absorb another white person into their, it's just he's like me, whatever. And it's, I don't know, just think about this. It's the only thing that St. Patrick's Day is worth for me, is like thinking about the fact that Irish people, yes, did go through a period of oppression. They were refused jobs and stuff like that. That's long in the past. We're fine now. We're doing all right. You know what I mean? I've never once been like, hey, you've heard you fucking Irish, whatever. Like,
right.
But we should always keep that in mind, that bit of history, just because it shows that this stuff is socially enforced and it's ultimately meaningless. And also there is apparently, I just found this out looking into it earlier, there is apparently a conversation, we'll say, among historians that anti-Irish settlement even happened at all. I mean, sentiment, I keep saying sentiment even happened at all. And it did.
What? It did. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, kind of thinking, is it racist, modern racists that want to make make it so it didn't happen? Basically, is that why they?
I don't know. I
don't know.
really. I would guess just because like they don't want Irish people to realize that they
Right.
got the raw deal. And I see Eastern Europeans mentioned in the chat. Certain places in the country, anti-Greek sentiment was a thing. Anti-German sentiment there was this weird yo-yo where like every 20 years up until like 1950, whether or not Germans could be real Americans was up in the air. Like, because you had a lot of Germans move into the Midwest, and a lot of them that came here were, for the time, more progressive people, so they weren't real Americans. And then they were real Americans eventually, and then World War I happened, and then they weren't real Americans again. And then they were back to being real Americans, and then World War II happened, and they weren't real Americans again.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So, like, I guess if I had to define whiteness, it is the ability to pass in the pale-skinned hegemonic culture. That, like, you don't get that label applied to you. You're white. You're not Irish.
Being
You're
white
not
means the only time
black,
you ever have to.
You're not Hispanic. And even that, like, when you tie it to like being Irish or being German or being Italian, there's like a weird half step there because you at least get a country where like black folks just get black.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. That's true. That's absolutely true.
Middle Eastern folks get Arabic,
East.
even though they're not all Arabic.
Right.
And even though some Arabic people look fucking white.
Or they just get called Muslim.
Or they just get called Muslim.
Because of their ethnicity, they get called a religion.
Right.
You know?
Like they're from India, they're Sikh or Hindu, and they get called a Muslim. It's like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah, so I just want to just point out, because this is pretty badass. It was actually an eighth grade girl who apparently did a lot of the modern I guess debunking of some of this more modern attempts at diminishing the history of anti-Irish sentiment. So there were people that were saying that let's see, that basically it wasn't a big deal, that there was maybe a few signs here and there, but it wasn't as big a deal as like people sometimes like to make it out to be. And I'm not sure who's saying that, what their motives are, but nonetheless, it was an eighth grade girl who did a lot of research and found like a lot of examples of late 19th century, early 20th century signs on various places saying don't bother applying if you're black, if you're Irish, or if you're a dog. You know what I mean? Which kind of tells you what they're
tells you, everything you need to know.
So just shout out to that girl because she's awesome. Yeah. Doing the good FAP, and no, I shouldn't say that about an eighth grade girl. I'm sorry.
No, you should not, Dane.
Fucking God damn it! I'm fucking this one up. I'm gonna just leave the stream now. Okay.
Bye. We'll miss you.
Anyway, but wow, there's been more recent stuff than I would have expected. So yes, there's obviously anybody that doesn't understand the difference between racism and prejudice. Hey, learn it. You know what I mean? Like, please learn it. I'm tired of this fucking shit. It's like the right has made so much fucking headway on just the conflation of these two terms that it's absurd. Like, learn what fucking words mean, man. Like, racism in the sense of like that we're typically referring to racism when we talk about systemic racism is not something that, Irish people, white people, people of color suffer from that. White people don't.
Right.
There can be effects that are created by the system, which is a racist system, that can have adverse effects on white people. Sure. Yeah. But that's like a secondary thing. And it's not the primary function of it. Anyway, prejudice still happens to Irish people. Apparently Azalea Bakes is a big anti-Irish person. I don't know. That's crazy. And she's an American rapper, for anybody that doesn't know. She made disparaging comments on Instagram about Irish people after getting into an argument with a flight attendant on some flight to Dublin. She called Irish people a bunch of prideful inbred leprechauns. And hey, man, that's fucking true, okay? But like, we don't need it pointed out by you. All right.
That's like, I can't say that, right? But you can. You're Irish. I can't call you that. That would be wrong.
We don't like it being called out. All right. We don't like
Right.
it. Just yeah.
That's like me using a certain T word on Friday. I can do that.
See, I had a strong feeling, Danimal, that that's the kind of person that would say something like that. Because if anti-Irish sentiment didn't happen, then that means that race isn't a social, like a racism isn't a social construct. That like the need to, yeah.
So now I want to know how many of these people who say there was no anti-Irish racism also want to argue that slavery in America wasn't racist because there were Irish slaves. I wonder how many people have those two competing thoughts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well,
now they were different forms of slavery, but
the reason that you know that those two things are different is that it's very different. Is if you were Irish, you weren't necessarily going to be a slave.
Right. That's true.
If you were black and especially in the South, yeah, you're gonna be one.
Almost certainly, yeah. Oh well, at least he's consistent, Danimal. At least
look, I will be honest. I do kind of have some weird, fucked up kind of ounce more respect for fucking Nazis that are honest about being Nazis.
Like at some point, negative numbers are negative numbers. So
right? Yeah, it is. It's
I'm just like, that's technically true, but also like still.
I'll just say it's a relief. It's a relief when you find one. It's like, hey man, thanks for making me not making me have to fucking work to get you to admit it.
Right.
Like,
at least you'll just come out and say it. Now we can save a step.
Oh Jesus Christ! All right, that's enough of that. Enough of that Irish bullshit. They're doing all right over there, right? Are they doing okay? They're past the troubles, right? That's over.
Well, I mean, they fucking Boris Johnson tried to bring it back, but I think they got that under control now.
Okay, all right. I need to check in on my people more often, I guess.
What is 2024? According to Star Trek, this is the year of Irish unification. So hopefully, cross his fingers.
That's true. Wow, get on that, Irish folks.
Yeah, Ireland, North, South, come together. Bring it together. Get out of the UK. Leave Turf Island. You're not even part of Turf Island. You're your own island. Just be chill over there. Just like let Turf Island sink into the sea. Your energy prices will probably be better too because you can trade with the whole European market, unlike some places I know.
All right. So, how did you want to begin this whole FAP? How do you want to lube it up?
Well, I think I'm going to start from the nosebleeds. Okay. We're going to start at the top, literally in the nosebleeds. Because there are, in a couple of weeks, I'm not going to do as good a job as people like Innuendo Studios, who has done a master class on it. And there's a lot of other great commentators who have documented the history of this whole thing. So I wanted to come at this from some different perspectives than the ones I've seen elsewhere. And because it's easy to write what you know, I figured I'd tell my own how I came to understand Gamergate as a gamer. And this takes us back to the year of 2014. And yeah, it starts on a little place called 4chan. Just a little, I'm sure none of you have heard of it. Just this little site called 4chan. And I spent not a ton of time on 4chan, but I spent time on 4chan because the /TG, which is tabletop gaming, was a good place for my poor self to get access to books and materials for role-playing games and miniatures games that I may not have had the cash to pay for at that point in time. And it was a good way to go about getting that. And plus, for me, like when I was introduced to 4chan, this is when they were doing the DDoS attacks on Scientology and the original Anonymous stuff with like big tech companies going after them. Yes, I do mean the intensely known 4chan. That's the joke. So to me, 4chan was not what it is today. A shit show, obviously, but it was still a shit show, right? Like
4chan is not even the bad one anymore. 4chan cleaned up a little bit.
Like it's now 8chan, and then there's the other one.
Yeah, the other one.
I don't even know the name of the other one. It's just that
I'm not certain that it's not a racial slur, so I don't like to say it.
I don't know what it's called, and we don't need to shout it out. It doesn't matter for this story.
Okay. Yeah.
But also in 2014, I wasn't super politically active. I was also very busy. I was working 6 days a week. That was the year I graduated college. I got ordained. I got that promotion that made me work 6 days a week for not nearly as much money as it gave responsibilities. Oh, hey, Bob. And so for me, being on 4chan every, maybe a couple times a week, there'd been a lot of anti-feminism around at that point, but it was just like background radiation. It wasn't really directed at anyone specifically. Just a lot of guy talk. A lot of commenting on characters' physical looks. Complaining about certain characters. But it never rose to the level that I was like, what the fuck is going on here? It was just this weird sort of background sexism that was not uncommon in gamer spaces, both online and in person. And then something got weird. Someone was saying that a woman had slept with a game reviewer to get a good review. And at first I'm just like, it's just more background noise. I don't know what game that is. I don't know what developer that is. I don't know the person saying it. The post keeps getting removed because this post kind of cycles back up and down, not just on 4chan, but other places online. Someone would share it, and then it would get removed, and then someone else would share it, and then it would get removed. And this went on for a while. And by the time I'm like, okay, I need to figure out what the fuck is going on here, it was a lot of outrage, and it had spread beyond just this. We're talking about, yeah, that's a great example, Danimal. That is a great, what was the TV channel? Spike.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of like that kind of sort of background sexism that was on Spike and G4 TV.
Well, and see, and then like I'm just, by the way, I have almost no experience within other than in kind of hindsight dealing with it. I remember when Gamergate was going on, I remember being like, what the fuck is that? And then I look into it and was like, okay, seems a lot of people are being really weird about women, despite the fact that they're saying it's about, somebody doing something unethical with journalism or something. I didn't know. I mean, that's why like I refuse to be told even before I even knew what was going on. Like as an outside observer,
right.
It was clear to me there was misogyny happening despite what they were saying was happening.
Right.
Like, and so it's really weird that people would ever go like, oh no, it wasn't about that. Well, then you should say that to all these guys that were being fucking pieces of shit about women.
Well, and that they use that because there's this weird symbiosis that starts to happen. This sort of like parasitic relationship between the two halves of Gamergate. And this is where like I start to go, well, this is a problem. Because when I started looking into it, I had friends who were in these spaces. I had friends that were Gamergaters, and I went, what the fuck is this about? And so they go, oh, well, you know, it's about this woman who slept with a guy to get a good review. And I'm like, well, why are all these other people being like harassed? Like, oh, no, that's a separate thing. Well, is it? Because it doesn't look. And if I'm asking like what this is about.
Well, and often it would be hashtag Gamergate would be included in, you know,
in all of it.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they sort of gave each other cover, were like the people who were for ethics in game journalism would target people complaining about Gamergate, because people saying they were Gamergate would harass those people. And then because they said, hey, harassment is bad, Gamergate is harassing people, that people go, well, we're not doing that. And so it was like the harassers could take cover in these suckers, these useful idiots. And then a while later, because this went on for a while, it made mainstream coverage. I don't actually know how long it was sort of at the movement went on in my own life, because this is just my perspective from the nosebleeds. But there came a point that fall where I was like, I wanted to see the review, right? Because this all started, right? If you want to try and get to the heart of the problem, right? You want to go, okay, well, how the hell does this, like, what is this all about? Okay, well, a guy said his ex slept with another guy to get a good review. You know what the problem is?
He didn't review that game.
There was never a review. It never happened. It's false. It's made up.
We did it. We did it, gamers. We stopped the review. Is that what they said? I'm just taking a guess. Like that.
What did you say?
Did they take that as their victory? That they made it so the review didn't come out or something? Like how do they cope with that? How do they fucking cope with that fact? Do they just ignore it or what?
It seemed like there was never a consistent excuse, right? I was just like, well, wait a minute, hold on. There is no review. And so you had everything they took it down and they hid it. It's, you know, they took it off the website, or he was gonna review it and this blew the lid off, even though the game had been out for a long time at that point. It was just a lot of weird shifting the blame. And by this point, I was losing friends for the...
Thought it was that... Well, I mean, but that's not games journalism, though, then, is it? It's just that Steam is the problem, if it was really a problem at all.
So what it was is the what's called the Zoe post, which is the guy's post that he shared around all over the place, said that a Kotaku writer had done a review for it once the game was on Steam Greenlight, which was, I don't think they do it anymore, but it was an early access program for Steam indie games, or indie games on Steam. And that Kotaku review never happened. And so things got shifted around. I'm sure that it was part of the Steam thing, was one of the... Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you know, weird. Like,
and then also, like, it got some coverage when it got on Steam Greenlight, but that guy didn't write that coverage.
Oh, well, there you go. But I mean, he works at Kotaku, right?
Right, and also
so he probably told the other person to write it because he got laid real good, right? I don't know.
Right now, you've got a whole the number of stories and excuses for why the original post didn't make sense really add up to, like, there are a bunch of things that contradict each other. They can't all be true. They can all be false.
There's also just a lot of just like raising assumptions being made of like things that nobody has the facts for.
Right.
at the same time, it's all based on misogyny.
Right.
It's all based on the fact that, literally that women, there's this underlying thing of like a woman sleeping with a man when a woman's trying to do something like, make a game or get it, game greenlit or whatever. The only reason she might do that is like sleep with the guy is because not because like he's like somebody that likes games, clearly, because he works at Kotaku and she likes games because she makes them. No, it's because she's trying to insidiously, she's a succubus. You know what I mean? Like that kind of like,
right.
It's
well, and then as Debbie points out, they didn't just stop with Zoe. They went after Anita Sarkeesian for a separate thing. They went after the Woos, Felicia Day, Will Wheaton, and all Will Wheaton did says this seems fucking shitty. Maybe don't do this, and they fucking went after him too.
And of course, asterisk for Brianna Wu, as we know some shit about her now, but she still didn't deserve any of the shit.
She did deserve
despite
it,
being a fucking transphobe shithead.
Yeah, she's kind of a shithead. Yeah, it is. It's satanic panic, right? It's not satanic, but it is in that vibe.
Yeah, I think you mean like in the frameworking of essentially just like, here's a thing that there's something that happened, like some recurring incident that did happen. There was a thing in the sense that this person was dating this guy,
right?
And then also this person got a game greenlit. Therefore, oh my god, so kind of like the what's his name in the Satanic Panic FAP, where this guy was playing D&D and then he went missing,
right?
or whatever.
And they
so like
correlated,
clearly,
and the media correlated those two things because he had gone to Gen Con, and the private investigator who was looking for him made that known. And so that turned into D&D killed him. The Anita Sarkeesian stuff is really weird because, so for those who don't know, Anita Sarkeesian is still, I believe, a blogger. She had a podcast called Feminist Frequency. I believe it is over.
It did end, yes. So
yeah, I never cared for her. I still really don't. I have no strong opinions, but she kickstarted a series she was going to do on video games. And this made people very upset. And they tried to throw a lot of accusations at her so what happened is, at the same time, because now we're just targeting women involved in converse and media around video games, she had a Kickstarter to do her Feminist Frequency video game series. And then these Gamergaters, Tropes vs. Women, that's what it was called. Thank you. She did the Kickstarter. And during the Kickstarter, this group of people started accusing her of a bunch of stuff, started saying that she wasn't a real gamer, and that may or may not be true, but it's hardly important to the story. But what happened is the amount of money she got for the Kickstarter ballooned because
of the attention that essentially these guys brought to her.
Right. They brought her free advertising. And then Bob, exactly right. So she gets more money than she expects. She announced it's going to take longer than she expected because she's got...
I can actually tell this part, and I have a bit of an admission, so a bit of a Dane's Chudley past here, moments of Chudliness. And it informs every day. It informs how I make my content and how I deal with this stuff. So the experience, because I had just started watching YouTube for things other than like movie trailers and music videos around this time, right? It was for the longest time, that's all I watch a movie. Movie trailer, watch a music video or music band play or something. That's it. Then I realized, oh wait, there's atheists on here. And first of all, there's the Atheist Experience, which I had just moved to Portland at this period, and then from Austin, where Atheist Experience is and like, oh my God, they're not just local access anymore. They're fucking great, So I was like excited about that. And then of course, that leads me to TJ Kirk, leads me to Thunderfoot, Chris Raygun, and just various guys like that. And when I was watching those kind of somewhat casually, mainly for the atheism content, I didn't really care for the other stuff, or like whenever Thunderfoot started going off on Anita Sarkeesian all the time, I'm just like, what the fuck is this about? Like, I liked when he did science experiments and shit, and it was like suddenly he's doing this. I'm like, what the fuck? And so I watched a few videos, and at this point was whenever at first I went and watched one of her videos, one where she was talking about the male gaze and like video games where a woman is the playable character, and that how the kind of view from behind is often different than it would be if it was a male character,
right?
And it would like be focused on her butt more or whatever. And I'm like, that is kind of weird. That's well, okay, and I recognize that there's some validity there. I didn't know how much that's actually. I still don't know how much of that is actually a recurring problem. Is it something that still goes on? I don't know. But I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. And some other stuff she said, I don't remember what it was, but I was like, yeah, I see what she's saying there. That makes some sense. Because I've never really been much of a misogynist, not in any of these ways anyway. Like, I definitely had some problematic views before I worked them out when I was younger, but like, yeah, that kind of thing, like, yeah, women shouldn't be fucking ogled at. You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's a pretty like her criticisms are pretty 101. Is a lot of people refer to them as sort of feminist theory 101. It's not anything complicated or even controversial unless you are looking to be upset or primed to be upset. And what had happened is you had an environment, really a culture of sort of passive misogyny.
Yeah.
You had a incident that was manufactured of this, like a woman abusing the gaming ecosystem.
Well, I wanted to say like what it was that I really liked, that for a very brief moment I almost went down Chud lane. Okay. And I wanted to tell when that was. So when the fundraising thing happened, and then because like all that other stuff, it's like, I'm not super invested in feminism or anti-feminism really. Like, I mean, just generally treat people well, it's fine. But then whenever it became about like, oh, she's grifting, she's taking all this money. And at this point, I also didn't have really an understanding of anything about how the social media, creates a fucking, like the Streisand effect or anything, whatever you would call it, reverse Streisand effect in this case, or Kickstarter or raising money. None of this stuff that I have any context for how it works tends to work, right? And so all I hear is that she just made a shitload of money. She was making even more money than she planned to make, and now she's going to take way longer to put this stuff out, and she's saying she's going to do. And I was like, wow, that does sound like a fucking grift.
Exactly.
And for a moment, I believed that she was a grifter. And I wanted to say to Daniel here that, like, I mean, man, who gets on the internet and starts making content that doesn't want to raise their profile?
It is one of those things that, like, I'm not a mind reader. I don't follow her content. I didn't really follow it back then. I certainly don't now. And I think whether or not she was a grifter borders on irrelevant to what happened.
True. Yeah. I mean, whether she was or not, it's like,
because like in the midst of all that, right? Like, okay, so let's say Dane and I start the FAP starter Kickstarter, and we set our goal to $20,000, just throwing a number out there. But then Scamly, and all of other Dane's stalkers decide they're gonna make videos about how Dane's gonna grift with this FAP starter. But that just gets it on other people's radar who is paying attention to what the Chud channels say. And then those people go, oh, look at this Kickstarter.
I mean, even so, like, okay, so yeah, that was another thing, by the way, that I stuck in my craw, was like, realizing where I'd seen where she said that something like she's not really a gamer, and then also that she would be in a video in front of a bunch of games that she didn't own or play or anything like that, and that kind of stuff. The lack of authenticity rubbed me the wrong way. But then, like, when you get past that and you think about the fact that, does it make anything she's saying about these video games not valid? I mean, maybe some of it's not, But I mean, the fact that she is not a gamer, or wouldn't call herself that, the fact that she hasn't played all the games or whatever, it doesn't change the fact that this is a trope that is problematic or unfair to women or gatekeeps women or anything. None of that is changed by that fact, right?
Right. Well, this actually gets into something that there's actually I saw it in a let me pull up whose video it is. I have not watched it all the way yet because it's 6 fucking hours long and I have a life.
Dear. And I know you said something, but I wanted to just remind everybody that like the absolute best source, and if you're looking for if you want to get into the lore and the drama of it, which I don't recommend, fuck all that stuff. Like if you want practical lessons to take from Gamergate, this is the place to go.
No, I can't find. Anyways, so someone goes, there's a video out in the history of it. And effectively at 2 different points in time, Anita Sarkeesian said she's not a gamer. And then at a later point, she said she enjoyed games. I don't like.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, was she saying it in the sense that like how we talk about like, hey, gamer words or hey, gamers, like she's not a gamer like that, right? Like it's like how I'm an atheist technically, but I wouldn't go around and be like, I'm an atheist, because there's a lot of weird shit that comes along with the atheist community. And yeah.
So it is by Savvy Writes Books. It's a full Gamergate retrospective. It's 6 hours, 1 minute, 56 seconds long. So if you have a workday worth of time, the first hour or so was pretty informative. But like I said, I have shit to do. And I didn't want to, when we decided to do this, I was like, well, I need to like focus on writing this and not just watching other people's content. Otherwise,
that's what I did.
And that's fair because you want to sort of have the background. But
yeah.
And
I'll be honest, I mean, it also doubles as work for my rest of my content to refresh myself on the Innuendo Studios content. Like,
right. Like, and sort of like it in this time, like with how gamers were behaving, like I stopped referring to myself as a gamer. I was like, I don't. As soon as I had to explain Gamergate to my aunt because it made legacy media, I was just like, I'm not going to use the G word anymore.
I think, yeah, I mean, I'll save that for the end if I remember like a kind of a lesson to take from the whole thing, but yeah.
Well, now I think, because even like when it initially happened, a lot of the commentators I was watching took it seriously. I didn't have a ton of time because I was working 6 days a week, but there was a couple. One of them is dead now, which is unfortunate. Total Biscuit was one of the first gaming podcasters I really got into. And then the others, of course, is the Jimquisition, which is Stephanie Sterling's show.
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you play the...
I will. One more thing I wanted to address with Danimal here, and it's like, I know, look, guys, Danimal's a friend. He's a good dude. Like, I will say, you did say you identified as pro Gamergate early on. I guess I'm curious why you would have identified as that, and I also wonder if you maybe haven't kind of weeded some of that bias from back then consciously a little bit, because how is it a bad tact that the only people that think it would say she'd went about it the wrong way are, I mean, it's generally there's a lot of women and then leftists and progressives who did take positive things from her content, even if they were critical of it. There were people like me who, up until it seemed like due to forces not created by her, which is the attention she got an influx of money, and then now she's in a new situation she's got to deal with. That's also a new situation they can craft a narrative about. In what way was what she did a bad tact to anybody except Gamergaters, to people who were resistant to what she's had to say? You know what I mean? Is what I would be curious about. Anyway, let's check
I think
this
it's
out.
one of those things that, like, the reasons that I don't think that whether or not Anita Sarkeesian was a bad faith actor or was a grifter, one of the reasons I think that is not a part of the conversation we should have been engaging is because it is a little too close to she had it coming.
Yeah.
Thought processes that it's not quite, she was what was she wearing, but this idea that she may have deserved it, and it's like if she was a bad faith actor, if she was giving bad analysis, if she was doing it to raise her profile, then you can criticize those behaviors independently of what happened. And you can also have the respect to take a minute and go, I don't need to add to this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason that I feel it's important to address at this point, because I know that I can actually have a dialogue with Danimal in particular.
Yeah.
And then and then because it does keep getting brought up, like, I agree with you. Ideally, we wouldn't even be talking much about Anita at all, other than to mention her in passing that she was subject to this shit. But yeah, anyway, all right. Oh yeah, the video.
All right. So this is Steph Sterling's video at the time. And this is like she tries really hard. So I went back and watched her, and actually most of this is when she was still at The Escapist. She tries for a good month not to say anything on this. And she even references I'm going to write a blog post on this. I don't really want to do a show on this. This isn't what I want to talk about.
Yep, but unfortunately, it became out of her control and out of the realm of possibility to even make gaming content without addressing it.
Right.
Yeah. And just get ready, guys. This is a throwback and a half.
This is a throwback. This
nearly
video is 10 years old.
September 2014. Here we go. Let me ask, does she still call it the Gymquisition?
Yeah, the show is still called the Gymquisition.
Okay, cool. That's pretty awesome. Actually, I mean, that's cool. All right. Face.
People are still out of their fucking minds. This past week, YouTuber JonTron and developer Tim Schafer got into a bit of a dust-up over female representation in games, leading to the former's fans starting up a hashtag, #IStandWithJonTron. I thought that was funny. I mean, he got into an argument with the developer, he's not Rosa fucking Parks. Anyway, I had fun with the idea and did a silly tag of my own, I stand with Ganondorf, because if anyone needs our support, it's him. As a result, I got called an SJW, fighting on the SJW side. Social justice warrior is a term that may at one point have been meant to insult radical individuals, but it's become so abused and exploited, it doesn't really get to mean much anymore. It's become a catch-all term for person I disagree with. I've been called an SJW quite a bit lately because I've argued that it's a good idea, business-wise as well as socially, for games to be more inclusive. I've always tried to argue these points rationally and calmly, and when it comes to issues of gender, race, and sexuality, I'm pretty fucking lukewarm by design. I'm not always successful in that endeavor. Sometimes I get a bit overbearing with all sorts of topics.
Wait a second. I thought it was Stephanie. And also, she was always trans. If she's trans, she's always trans. Yeah, I think it's... I don't know where you got Jesse James.
I want to... Is that maybe a new wrestling name that she took? I'll have to look into it.
I don't know. And that's right? Like, if she's always been trans, not just now trans.
Right. She wasn't trans. She is trans.
Yeah, remember that? The good old days. No, doesn't feel right.
Well, and we'll keep playing. We'll keep playing. All right.
Sure, but I try not to be. Nevertheless, here I am on a list of SJWs that you must avoid at all.
Along with Movie Bob right at the top. The Escapist there, or close to the top almost. Who else is there? Let me see. Let me pull up make my screen bigger here, and then we got Game Ranks, Video Gamer, Revision 3, Games Radar, Giant Bomb, GameSpot, Official Nintendo Magazine, Nintendo Life. Polygon, all of them. I see
All
how
of them.
they've got it separated by outlet. I got you.
Yeah, it's outlet and then writer.
Yeah, that's not.
Imagine. Okay, so like, here's how you know you're the bad guy.
You're making a list of people.
You're making a list of people.
Yeah.
That's like, should I check my bad guy card? Like, should I see if I got my bad guy card in the mail? I'm making a list of people.
I need to get the "Are we the baddies?" drop. I need to have that.
Yeah.
All right.
All costs for having what are really quite moderate views. Look, if I'm so bad, your world must be absolutely tiny. There are terrible extremists on both ends of the spectrum, I won't deny that. There are radicals so blinded by a hatred of men, they despise trans women more than anybody. But if you label everybody you have even the slightest disagreement with an SJW, you're really just showing that you're an extremist yourself. I'm reminded of how many people attack me for being a fan of Anita Sarkeesian because I said she doesn't deserve to be harassed and that her fame is a direct result of people who hate her bringing her up all the time. People hate that I'm such a fan of feminist frequency, except I'm not a fan of feminist frequency. See, and I'm gonna peel back the veneer here, you can say someone doesn't deserve harassment and not even like their work. I don't really watch Anita's videos. I don't find her style all that compelling, and I determined the show wasn't for me. Now, I think she has a right to make the videos without being threatened and attacked, and apparently that's translated by some as me saying Anita's fantastic and can do no wrong. No. Can we just drop the fucking black or white Fox or CNN with us or against us bullshit, please?
Yep, she said, let's drop the black and white thing, and from there on, everybody did, and there was never any problems.
Right,
ever.
and that worked out well, I'm sure. So, yeah, I think we can stop that one there. Yeah, I don't think.
Okay, well, yeah, and I did want to address the Matt Jarbo-ness of the situation, and I guess
yeah,
just because he's been around the channel quite a bit, and he hasn't been in a while. He's doing his own specific type of thing now that's not directly related to Chuds and whatnot, and that's good for him. He definitely is not. So the reason that he is actually pretty relevant on the timeline is he is seemingly the first YouTuber to cover the I don't remember what part it was. Whatever, I guess it was the list or I mean the leak of information or whatever the fuck it was that the boyfriend did.
The Zoe post?
Yeah, I think it was the Zoe post that he covered. He was the first YouTuber with any substantial following, I suppose, that really covered it as news. And that was a mistake.
Yeah, it was not great.
It's not news. That's people's fucking private, drama going on, and you shouldn't amplify that.
None of your business.
Yep. Just don't amplify that. But he covered it, and from there he's now forever. And I've always made the joke at him about it whenever it comes up. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you basically caused Gamergate. Because in the most technical sense, he did. But like somebody else would have covered it. It's fine.
Yeah, there was always going to be someone, because part of this is, and this is sort of came out after the fact. There were whole IRC groups dedicated to pushing this narrative. From a we have an anti-feminist thing and we hate feminists. We are, and this is why I make a big deal about like not bringing up Anita's content in the conversation because it doesn't matter, is because they were always going to find someone because the group was dedicated to finding someone.
Yep. That's the thing.
And this is the Five Guys was the name of the group, as in Five Guys Burgers and Fries, because the implication was that Zoe was a whore.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes me feel like I can't use my joke anymore because I didn't know about that part of it. But yeah, I used to be like, anytime I'm like, oh, you know what, I need 5 guys inside of me, and just go get some 5 guys. But Debbie, I mean, honestly, like, I don't know how you can say that. Like, there's still women in sexy outfits in games now. There will probably never not be like women in sexy outfits, for one thing, because sexy is completely subjective. What you're talking about is you're talking about it from the perspective of toxic masculinity, honestly, where you're just like thinking of women with big tits hanging out of the sides of their bikinis or whatever, and those still exist too, I think. So like, it's not even like that's gone. But yeah.
I have some friends who are into the that side of the Baldur's Gate 3 fandom, and let me tell you something. There are some sexy women in that game, and there
Sexy
is
bears,
some very, very, very erotic art of them out there. I don't think there is a lack of sexy women in games. I think there is a looking to be upset.
So, I mean, when you're talking about making amends, I mean, it depends on what you mean. Like, I know that, I mean, I guess if Reggie's saying here that he apologized to Anidia, but he relishes Zoe hating him. And this is the reason that I kind of mentioned to Daniel earlier, like, have you done processing of like that time when you were kind of into that? Because I feel like Jarbro maybe hasn't in some ways, that he's still, even though he's definitely changed generally how he views the world and women and everything, like his politics, he's generally progressive. He still, whenever that topic would come up, I would get uncomfortable. Yeah. Because I could tell that he's still kind of got not a foot, I wouldn't say a foot, but maybe like a pinky toe dipped into that. Right. And so, it's understandable, like anybody's going to be changed, but formed by the experiences they have, especially when you're at that center of it like that, and you're that mired in it when it happens. But yeah, I don't know. I would say that the content that he's made, last several years now, has gone a long way to, like, I wouldn't have him on my channel, wouldn't have had him on my channel, wouldn't have been on his channel like I have been, if it wasn't for the fact that I could tell he legitimately, and he said he does, regret attitudes that he perpetuated and things that he contributed into, but like, as far as apologizing to Zoe or whatever, I don't know about that relishing thing. I don't know why that would be. I don't know. It kind of sounds gross and weird, but
I don't know Jarbo. I've never interacted with him.
I would need to know that that's what he'd actually said. Not to doubt you, Reggie, but I would need to know the context of him saying anything for me to begin to understand why he might have said that. But
yeah, there is that too, that there's an amount of like, this got you where you were. It's hard to completely internalize and sort of process how that might not be so great. But
yeah, and I mean, and I will say that like it seems like it wasn't until it kind of bit him in the dick that things really started changing for him. But like, yeah, I mean, he pissed a lot of people off that were, because he was never far right, he was never like a fucking white, but he definitely ended up on the side of things there where those people were, and whenever he ran afoul of those people, it wasn't good. Wasn't good for him.
That's why all these right-wing anti-feminist people jumped onto it, was to try and onboard them, who may have been just sort of passively sexist rather than actively anti-feminist and anti-women, and to just like push them down that hole by both giving them more people to hate, more people to blame, and also trapping them in this cycle of, well, they're going to call me sexist anyways, because someone would do a doxing or a swatting. People would call and leave death threats. And even the most negative media coverage, it doesn't, like, for a long time, it treats the complaints with some validity. And there's even an article in Boston Magazine from the time that's an interview with the writer recounting his interview with the perpetrator of the Zoe post. And kind of fawns over the guy, even while saying he's done all this shit, and like, he's violated the restraining order half a dozen times or something. Like, the the writer couldn't help but talk about how smart he was and how like cool under pressure he was and yada yada yada. That like the needs to both sides it combined with the outcry against the people who were harassing using the Gamergate name, and then those harassers getting the people who were pro Gamergate to be mad at the people who were saying Gamergate is a problem because I'm being harassed by people who call themselves Gamergate. It just creates this cycle of you've got the media doing both sidesism. You have victims who are saying, hey, I'm being attacked. And then people allied with those attackers going, well, I'm not attacking you. We wouldn't do that. And it just, that cycle served to draw. It's like a drain, right? It's circling the drain, right? It is just sucking these people down.
Because you're not necessarily like if you just took it at face value that this woman did this, thing that was being accused, whatever, and that this is that is actually fucked up. That I don't want them to review games that way or whatever. For one thing, that's why I put that critical thinking thing at the beginning of the stream, by the way. Mm-hmm. Look into stuff, know how to verify information, because there are absolutely, and they learned a lot from this period. They figured out, things changed dramatically because of Gamergate. That people learned how to cynically use tactics that maybe weren't necessarily done cynically originally or something. I don't know, but like they're being done cynically a lot now. They're done to weaponize narratives against people, against ideas and political projects and everything. And it's, by the way, I'm sure you meant to get to this, Morgan, but I was going to make sure that we talked about how this like became a larger thing of like a conspiracy, right? Within the video game industry and the journalism industry, and like all like that. This is not just this one issue. This wasn't a real issue, by the way. Yeah.
It was. This is where they got the whole ethics and games journalism thing. And there's a kernel of truth. There absolutely is. That there is an amount of collusion that goes on between reviewers and games publishers. But it's not for sex favors, and it's often not even the writers who are getting the kickbacks. It's the publication they work for.
Right.
And what that is that game publishers and game studios will either, typically implicitly, withhold review copies from outlets that have given them bad reviews in the past. The advertising departments for those game publishers will withhold ad money from those websites and from those publications to ensure good reviews. It's not about a woman may or may not have had sex with someone for a review that definitely does not exist. It's about money. It's about capitalism. And as Decoy says, conservatives never... Yep. Well, and I think that brings us to the second thing I want to talk about that is a little more systemic.
Mm-hmm.
And it is why, Danimal, I haven't seen you in a minute, but if you're still in chat, good for you hanging in there, because I know we've had some things to say.
Dude, Danimal, I hope that I really hope you don't feel called out or anything, but like, you like to come here and disagree. You told me that.
And that's A-okay. You are welcome to disagree, and I am happy to discuss this with you. And you're allowed to not like Anita. I have no strong opinion of her. I can take her or leave her.
Well, before you moved on real quick, do you mind if I just kind of echo something that Lucifer said?
Yeah.
that, like, because I mean, I think this is in response to me saying that like a lot of tactics that were done then have been repeated, and they're still repeated, and like, God, guys, wake up to these tactics for fuck's sake. Like this one, we're like, and this is what they do on the internet every goddamn day.
Yep.
This is the goal of content that is offensive, right? And I've said so many fucking times in my content that like you have to stop reacting exactly the way that they want you to. They don't care that they're being racist. In fact, they're doing it on purpose. They don't care that this is sexist. They don't, like the let's talk about it, the nerd erotic thing. A bunch of people showed up to his if you watch Pillar of Garbage's video about that, a bunch of people, he got outside of his normal bubble with that, because a bunch of people from like TikTok and stuff came and were just like, oh, how dare, this is offensive, and it's like, they're ignorant, they don't know, it's naive, it's fine, it's good intentions, but at the same time you boosted them, you know what I mean? The same way that Nita got boosted by the other side, so to speak. It's like you gotta just, this is why I'd say that not everybody even if you want to make content against chuds, you maybe shouldn't, unless you realize that the point isn't to react to everything that they say, and you're not going to fucking debunk every little point or make them realize they're being racist or any of that. It's like generally the best thing to do is to kind of take more of a bird's eye view and show patterns. That's why that video that Pillar of Garbage released a couple of days ago is so fucking great.
Very, very good. If you have not seen it, I would recommend watching it.
Which,
almost
by the way, I got to interview Pillar of Garbage yesterday for a couple hours. It was, not public stream or anything. You'll hear from that. But at the beginning of that, I got to show him where Reggie had posted in the server that Dan Slott gave him the fucking endorsement. Got the Dan Slott endorsement, man, and that's
legit.
Pretty cool. He hadn't seen that yet. I figured he had. I was like, I'm sure you've seen this, right? And he's like, no. I was like, yep. There you go, Dan Slott. Had here, I'll show you, just because it's came up, but that is a hell of an endorsement.
Look at that.
And so showing the patterns, showing the interconnectivity like that video does, showing how that this stuff is inorganic in many cases, even if some people who are engaging in it don't believe it, they actually do believe that they're being sincere on some level, especially nowadays. You go far enough down the rabbit hole, you don't even have to really, like, it's just right there. Like it's 2 clicks and you can find that there's like some right-wing media organization connected to this shit.
They're sincere in their beliefs, but their beliefs are informed by bad information. And so they're in the cycle of garbage in, garbage out.
So just learn the lessons of Gamergate if you haven't already. I really, really strongly urge that, and Comicsgate and then MAGA, and because Gamergate contributed to that. But anyway, I'll let Morgan continue on now.
All right, that was actually really great there. So the other thing we don't talk about, a lot of people have covered. I mean, we've talked about it on this show before about how much of the current right-wing movement uses Gamergate as a model. And they've profited tremendously from those tactics. They won the White House on it.
If anybody hasn't seen any of these videos, they're really short, but you should check them out, and you will definitely, I guarantee you, recognize the things that are being described as something you deal with on the internet on probably semi-regular basis at least.
There's actually a video he did that I am cited in.
Really? Which one?
Pop up the videos. I forget what it's called. I'll have to recognize it by eyeball. Scroll down. It's one of the COVIDs.
Oh.
I think it's the one on masculinity.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're the expert. So.
Oh, it's the semantics of cuck.
Semantics of cuck.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a longer one. Okay.
Yeah, it's longer. But so there is a term in there that he's like, I recently discovered this term. I was the one who told him about it. So yeah, that's my claim to fame.
Cool. Where'd you tell him about it? Like just on Twitter?
On Twitter.
Yeah. Man, I'd love to have him as guest. Wow.
Yeah.
But he speaks at schools and
school, right? He's like a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jack Harper Games, I remember you, man. I remember you. You're one of these guys. Nobody has ever thought that is a thing, man. Like you're definitely reducing something down to something that's not even our position whatsoever. No, you won't shut up, man, because you're a fucking fascist, dude. That's why you won't shut up. At this point, if you're fucking arguing in this way, you're just a fucking fascist. You're gonna fucking vote Trump. You know what I mean? Like, just fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that's gonna make you shut up because you're tiny dick, weak-willed, fucking insecure piece of shit, and you're incapable of fucking self-examination, self-growth, absorbing new information and becoming a better person. So you show up here to say shit like this that is not even our position because you have to fucking lash out, right? Like a child. Anyway.
Well, he's not even talking about what we're talking about. So,
bam. Got him.
Got him.
I mean, he's already been banned from this channel before, I believe. So I don't know. Maybe he got.
Must have made that might have been Jack Harper Games 89, and now it's 90, and we'll see 91 in a few weeks.
Exactly. They don't want to fix racism. They just want us to fucking stop believing racism exists so they can continue being racist. We're not racist. We just don't like hearing about racism because it makes us feel like we're doing something bad, even though we like doing what we're doing.
So I want to highlight Janice User's comment.
Mm-hmm.
How you do it is twofold. One, talk to the people in your life. Talk to them.
Yep.
If they mention something that sounds like this shit, go, hold on. Where did you hear that? What makes, did you, have you looked into it more? Et cetera, et cetera. But also you do it by being active locally.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the groundwork for what happened with Trump happened over the last 40 years with state and local elections.
Anybody
gutting
trying to say that
education, gutting worker protections at the state level, all of those things matter because it's a system.
Because of the fact that, like, the same way that there are problems in the comic book industry, as we've talked about plenty of times. Like, there are problems in the gaming industry. Obviously, there are problems, in government and in people's lives that are created by policies that have been, pushed through or not pushed through for, like you said, decades and decades. And that creates resentment. And then that's really what it boils down to, is there are people that know how to and are willing to cynically weaponize resentment. Whether that resentment is valid or not, it almost doesn't even matter to them, because they're going to aim that resentment at the thing that they want to diminish or defeat. And that's what Comicsgate does. That's what Gamergate did.
Want to pull up Travis's comment, the most recent one?
Yep.
That's one step. But also, you don't just have the November federal election. You have local elections for things like your school board, your whatever your city representatives are, whether alder people, county council, stuff like that. A lot of places have judicial elections. That matters a lot. Mayors, town presidents, primaries. People talk about, we have to, the Democratic Party isn't far enough to the left. What you can do about that is in your local primaries and your state primaries and your congressional primaries, you can find out which of the two candidates is more progressive, and you can vote for that person. But that is, and even if you're busy, right? Because it's like, I'm super busy. I work 10-hour days. I do this. I run games for an organization. I'm a busy person. That's what I can do. It doesn't take long. It takes a few hours every election to go, who the hell are these people? And the nice thing is, some of them might use some coded language, but they'll tell you. a lot of them post phone numbers, especially for local elections. You can call them. And when you call them, you will usually get their voicemail. And you can ask. And I've called representatives and made them answer the question, hey, why don't you think I should have health care? And made them stammer through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that might not change for their vote, but now they have to think about it. Now they know that's one person that's not going to vote for them. And that one person who took the effort to find my phone number and to call me is going to tell their neighbors. They're going to tell their friends. They're going to tell their family. Oh, yeah, my county representative doesn't want me to have health care because I'm trans. Now they know that.
Well,
and they have to keep track of that. That's their job.
So yes, this is all true. Absolutely. Like, at the same time, there is what Bob of the Old Ways is saying is like, I don't feel like I feel like it probably is time for certain people to begin to look for options.
Yeah.
In the event that things go a certain way in a few months.
Yeah, I think there are places where the likelihood of violence is high.
And there's and there's like, if you feel like, if you don't know if you're in a place like that, maybe you're not paying close enough attention. For example, I know that I am in a place like that for sure, because it's already happened. And we got a lot of really progressive people here in my city, and we're also surrounded by a lot of fascists. And they've shown they're willing to come into the city and fucking raise chaos and start shit. The same way they will brigade a fucking chat whenever they feel it's advantageous. So like, if you're a trans person especially, but also just really anybody who's LGBTQ or
person of color,
like, there's to varying degrees, these are things that you're gonna have to, maybe, unfortunately, that we're fucking in 2024, and this is something I have to say, fucking breaks my heart, that there might be a reason for you to get the fuck out. And I know that's not easy or even possible for many people.
A lot, yeah. It's expensive and it's hard. Another thing I would recommend to those of you who are white and cis and het, or either one, if you're decently well off, let your friends know that your home is available to them. If you can be there for someone, especially if you're in a a red state or a red town or whatever, like, just having, if let's say someone is out and about, a friend of yours who's black is out and about, and they get that unmarked squad car following them, that they can pull into your driveway and go knock on your door, and you'll let them in. That's huge, right? Like, every friend I let all of my friends know this, but I make an extra point to let my queer friends know that if you need somewhere to be, you can be here. And that's a lot easier to do than taking a self-defense class. And if you can take a self-defense class, I would recommend it.
Absolutely. And if you are comfortable doing so,
right,
and you have the ability to do so, own a firearm, learn how to use it.
Right.
There's a misconception that the left is just like against firearms. No, that's generally liberals.
That's a liberal thing. I am very pro firearm ownership. I've grown up around firearms. I respect my firearms, and one of the things that moved me to the left was how gun culture changed in the Obama years.
Yeah.
It was because my grandfather sold firearms and firearm parts at gun shows and stuff, traveled around the Midwest.
You mean how the NRA/Russia changed gun culture?
Well, there's a lot of that too, but they had a lot of people who were the pump was primed, right? Like it was that we were ready to go, right? You had a lot of anti-black racism, a lot of anti-immigrant stuff, and you're talking about 2008. You're not that far off of 9/11, where there's just a lot of xenophobia in that community. Especially because when you're talking about like being, so I've spent a fair bit of time in more rural parts of Wisconsin. It's on the news, and it's not just on Fox News, right? It's on your local affiliate talking about, oh, the security alerts and the TSA changes. But when you're not in an environment where like you live around a bunch of people, all you're getting is bad news about things that are happening elsewhere. And it just creates this bubble that like I am safe in this bubble, but everywhere else is super dangerous.
And then it's all that they're trying to penetrate my bubble too.
Right.
There was a story around the time of the election in 2020 where there was like a town mobilized and was ready to fucking fight off Antifa.
Right.
When there was no Antifa.
There's no Antifa. Yeah.
Literally no one had done anything or was going to do anything, but somebody posted something and they fucking just, because, I hate to say it, but it's like we are dealing with a lot of people who are, their whatever fear response is such that it's easily activated and convinced of things trying to hurt it. So to Travis's point here, man, yeah, we're both progressive is generally
progressive,
pretty
yeah.
safe word to say, I suppose. And yeah, and what you said, and then what Lucifer said in response to that, I believe that's exactly what Gamergate became. Yeah, that's exactly what Comicsgate is. That's exactly what the Phantom Menace is. That's what EFAP is. That's what all this shit is an attempt to take people who generally just culturally have come up in a time whenever like most people's default tends to be like, fairly liberal, socially, like if without a lot of influence, outside influence, most people would be like, I don't care what gay people do. I don't want trans people. I don't know, kind of weird, but whatever. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like that would probably be most people's fucking just general response. But when you have these movements, quote unquote movements, fucking astroturf goddamn movements. That influence people to think that these things are actually really, really bad and harmful. They're trying to take all this stuff from you, and they fucking do that despite not having evidence, or using something that's legit, but just contorting it and twisting it, making it into a bigger problem than what it even is. And then you get a lot of fucking reactionaries, and that's why they seem so crazy, because they kind of are, because they are acting based on things that generally it's just not even real. Or they're acting on something that's real, like trans people, but the information they have about what trans people are or what they do is that, this insidious fucking thing they're trying to do. And they have to fill these just generally passive, politically passive people, which we all can be at certain points, right? And that's what Gamergate did. That is how you ended up with a fucking MAGA president. That's how you ended with Trump in office, because
they use that model.
And I can't fucking stress this enough. Actually, I'll pull up the article just to prove it about Bannon's influence. So,
well, yeah, and I think Decoy brings it up really well. Also, I got to say to pop counterculture, like your Wisconsin jokes. I see you. I'm gonna tap you with the hammer. You've been tapped. We didn't hit you with it, just a little tap. Let you know. Only I make the Wisconsin jokes around here. You're great, man.
Right, yeah, so, Ed's got a new video, by the way. I forgot to mention that yesterday. That Ed's got a new video
like 2
out.
hours long, isn't it? It's a whole big to do.
Yeah, it's a study in Rian Johnson films, and like how a movie that he makes, I think mostly independently, Looper, and then when he makes under Disney, kind of differ. And, yeah.
Nice.
Excuse me. I kind of burped, but
yeah. A lot of people. Oh, okay. Look, I'm in a time vortex right now. 2 hours, 30 minutes. Those are the same thing.
How long has it been? How long's the
9
show?
years.
Oh, okay. No, I meant the show.
I don't know.
I meant the show.
The show.
I'll look in a minute whenever I'm back on the screen.
90 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I would have had to like think about it. All right. But yeah, a lot of people have been taught that they're conservative. My dad has this issue where like we will talk about what he believes, and then he will say, "Well, I'm a conservative," and I'm like, "Oh, Dad." But you know what? I've got him voting for a Democratic alder person. He may even vote for the Democratic mayor. He's not voting for Trump. And I do think that Roe versus Wade was a big like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, the healthcare system is it's a mess, and you are not wrong to resent our country for that. Literal became a dirty word sometime in the 1920s. Thanks, first Red Scare. That would be an interesting way to go about it, Bob. I'm curious how that would work. It is very weird that, like, I think at a certain point, like, it just, like, your political party becomes part of your identity, and identities are hard to change when you've internalized them.
So it's just one of many articles that there are.
A lot of digital ink has been written on.
This is not conspiracy. This is not conjecture. This is not speculation. This is admission by the man himself, backed by, you know, studies and just kind of like using your eyes. That Steve Bannon, who was the owner of Breitbart.com. If you're not familiar with what Breitbart is, it is a far right publication that is it's kind of like what we're just talking about. It's designed to seem like just your average, you know, kind of right leaning, outlet, right? Or at least it was before you had just far more openly far right outlets, and they became far more openly. But it was founded by Andrew Breitbart, who is the guy who famously said that politics is downstream from culture, which is true. It's one of the only things he said that was true, but it's very true. And that you can influence politics by influencing culture is what that means. And Steve Bannon is very much a fucking proponent of that. And he is not just someone believes it, someone that he fucking does it.
You're right. He does practice what he preaches.
You know, so his experience helping players navigate made up realities in his, he used to help dudes cheat with video games. That's true. He had a business that was like, I forget exactly what it was.
I don't remember the specific.
It was a video game related thing, basically. And that's what kept him, you know, he was tapped into this shit whenever it popped off, and he saw what was happening, and he was somebody that already was previously aware that if you have enough riled up, angry people, particularly men, white men, because, you know, they're the ones that they're easiest to activate and to get to vote, then you can actually kind of just get yourself a right-wing president. And
kinda
in the same way, I mean, in a weird way, it's like, hey man, he saw it, put it on his fucking dream board, his vision board, and he made it happen, man.
His dream board.
And I'm just realizing that one of my favorite bands is going to be in Portland soon. I got to look into that shit. Thanks, Ad. That's the first time I've ever said that. Yeah, so.
Oh, yeah, Decoy might be right. It might be gold farming.
What's that?
It might be gold farming in WoW. That was the cheat he was involved in. That would track through the timeline, because that was gold botting was a whole industry.
So yeah, he was vice chairman of International Gaming Entertainment, according to Joshua Green. Founded by Brock Pierce, a former child star of Mighty Ducks fame. That's weird that we can trace this to Mighty Ducks.
What the fuck?
It's just shit gets weirder as time goes on and you learn more about it. IGE was essentially a middleman for major games like World of Warcraft. You know, and what do you got with World of Warcraft, right? Is decide. Look, I don't know about now, but then at least the tropes were kind of true. The stereotype is kind of true. Because I knew people like this. I had friends that really all they did was play World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I know. My brother played so much WoW, he almost failed out of high school. We did not know he was going to graduate high school. Basically, the night, the last night before graduation is when we found out he was actually going to graduate. Because his grades were that bad.
Yeah. Well, and so like my friends that I know for a fact that, and this is, think about this. If you're somebody who was like this, or somebody like this or whatever, like it isolates you, it alienates you socially. You become withdrawn, you become more into this game. And this isn't a judgment or anything. Like it's just a thing that happens if you're not careful. And then rather than wanting to blame the thing that you're doing all the time, because you don't want to do that.
Right.
Our brains don't want to let us do that. It's the same thing of like, oh, I'm so overweight, man. I gotta stop at McDonald's and get fucking 3 cheeseburgers or whatever. Like
delicious cheeseburgers,
delicious McDonald's cheeseburgers or whatever. And yeah, it's hard for us to accept that the thing that we're doing, especially when you put that much time and effort into something, is the thing that is actually hurting us. So you look for other causes, and then you're like, well, you go online when you're not playing a game, and you're like getting called a racist or getting called a misogynist because you said something like you didn't think it was that bad. It's not a big deal. Just stating a fact here, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Right. Well, there's that, and also like, I played WoW. People said some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Racism was not uncommon in World of Warcraft.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
People referred to the N-word as the gamer word.
Right. They still do.
in some contexts. Same thing with the R slur.
And so, but then you have this guy come along, this movement come along of people that are telling you that the reason that you're, getting called these things and made you feel uncomfortable for the first time in your life, white boy.
You have never once, this is the biggest problem you've had in your whole life.
And it's distressing because, hold on, I'm supposed to be just I've always been just accepted as maybe not, I'm not cool, but I've never been rejected, right?
Right.
And then you get to, somebody like Trump or whatever, and people that are speaking to that resentment that you've developed, and you're off to the racists, or you're off to the racist.
You're off to the racists. And yeah, it's.
But yeah, this is, I do want to point this out, and then we can just kind of move off of it. But this is perfect. It is perfect. It's almost a perfect metaphor for Trump's campaign. How they exploited fiction, like the notion that President Obama wasn't born in the U.S., like that Hillary Clinton was, having bodies buried, and there's the emails and whatever other bullshit he was saying, to make real material gains, like winning the presidency. So, yeah.
The funniest part about all the shit they made up about Hillary Clinton is there was plenty of real shit that was wrong with her. It was just that it was stuff the right would probably have liked.
Are we noticing a pattern yet? Right? There's real problems. There's things you could and should be criticizing of this thing or this person or the industry or whatever it is. But no, you're going to do the other thing. You're going to do the thing that makes it's maddening is what it is.
If you don't season a potato salad, Ed, you should be in jail. You have to season a potato salad. That's a crime.
Yeah.
That's a crime. You have to season potato salad. I'm sorry. I will put you in jail myself.
Jesus Christ. He was essentially doing slave labor.
Yep.
Fucking hell. Okay.
Those fucking gold farming companies, they were fucking shit.
Wait.
They are.
Did Ed say something? Because I'm not seeing that comment in StreamYard.
Oh, that's weird.
That's fucking
I
weird.
see it in live chat, but yeah, It just didn't show up.
Okay.
That's
Ed,
weird.
do you have some kind of stealth device you're using on me, man?
He's got the cloaking device. Ed's secretly a Romulan.
But yeah, Bannon, there he goes. He did
Bannon,
that.
he's a fucko. So I think one thing that I wanted to talk about in the whole Gamergate conversation, because I brought it up in our ESRB episode back in the day, and I said put a pin in it, And now I'm going to pull that pin out.
Boop.
Thank you for pulling the pin. There's a lot of criticism was with Gamergate. Were bandied about. A lot of people were went after. A lot of people were attacked and harassed. People, individuals, media outlets, indie developers. But there's one thing on that list that's not there that I think is important. And I think it's important for reasons beyond Gamergate. And that's who they didn't go after. And that's the big publishers.
Oh.
They left them the fuck alone. Right? Because we're talking about, the early 2010s. There was an increasing period of representation in this time. BioWare games were still not terrible back then. You had, the Mass Effect trilogy had just wrapped up. I think Dragon Age 3 came out right about the time this is all happening. And that game had a lot of representation. Not all of it great. But it was a very successful game. But they didn't have shit to say. Nothing. They just focused on attacking individuals. And you're seeing that again here with the remake, where they're attacking this company, this little company, this little consulting firm. And they're not talking about the studios who hire that company. And in fact, they've had to make up a whole conspiracy theory that those 16 people have somehow coerced multi-billion-dollar companies into following their every whim. But they're not talking about Sony. They're not talking about Activision. Why is that?
Well, I mean, I'd say probably, just in general, because the movement itself, the concerns, all that stuff. Is it time? Is it time?
It's time.
It's a fake.
I'm going to do it again.
Do it again.
It's a fake.
There you go.
Because this movement doesn't care, doesn't give one shit, does not give one iota, could not be bothered to wipe its ass with video games. It does not, it simply does not care. It has never, ever been about video games. It has not once ever actually cared about the content, the quality, or the freedom of expression in video games. Because all they have complained about for 10 fucking years, 10 long, sad years, is fucking women in games, and people of color in games, and queer folks in games. And if you talk to people who play games, if you can get them talking about a thing that isn't Gamergate, even if they're a Gamergater, and go, what pisses you off about games? Well, it's all the microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
It's the season passes. It's pre-order schemes to get different gimmies for buying the game early. It's a lack of quality in the releases, so games come out buggy and half-finished and need, months worth of patching to get a game playable that comes out supposedly finished. For 10 years, we have had a gaming movement that has touched on nothing that has to do with how the sausage is made. They don't agitate for unionization in game studios. They don't agitate for better content. All they care about is the women and the minorities and the queer people. They weren't swatting Bobby Kotick. They weren't doxing Bill Gates. Because if they did, then those big publishers would have done more than just give a token line that harassment is bad to get the good PR win. To go, oh, look, see, we're against harassment. We'll maybe even make a token charity donation to some related charity. Because it was never about games. Gamergate has nothing to do with video games.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I still watch Steph Sterling Decoy, is because she is one of the only people who has been on that. And not all this other shit. Though there are plenty out there that are, but I have a finite amount of time, as we have discussed on this very show.
There you go. That's it. That's it. And you know what this is? It's a good segue. It's a good segue for a little self promo, I think.
Sure.
What it is, what Gamergate is like Comicsgate and stuff. It's a grift, and it's like these two things both exist at the same time. So don't ever think that just because if we say it's a grift or it is designed to indoctrinate people, fucking whatever, like then it's both of those things, right? Like, because there are people who are doing it. There are people that do it. They don't care about the politics or what any of the cultural bullshit. They're just like, this is a source of income for me.
Right.
That exists. And there are people that are doing it, primarily for political reasons, although I'm sure they really appreciate the money too.
I think there are people who also do it because they believe those things and want the money, right? Like you can be 50-50 on that.
Yeah.
It's many paths to being a scumbag.
The same way that they talk about, the same things. You can really almost really just remove gamer and put in comics.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the same exact thing, and that's not a coincidence. That's because the founders, so to speak, of Comicsgate, as in like Richard Meyer, who I want to say about him real quick. Richard Meyer, fucking your boy Zach, his ban evasion name on YouTube. If existing tomorrow, he wouldn't have any content. Literally, the only thing that fucking piece of shit does is make videos with like a tweet where like somebody tweets something and he's like, oh, they're just the dumbest shit. He's a fucking. It's really pathetic. And if he just wasn't making money, then I wouldn't even care. But like,
right.
Anyway, but then Ethan Van Sciver, he comes along and he sees the opportunity as well. It's a bit of both for him. I think that Ethan is probably a true believer, so to speak, of like they're taking my job. They took my job. Even though I can't be accountable for anything. So that must have been the women and the strange women, and the queers and whatever else. And it's like it's just a con. Okay.
Yeah.
A con. And the first episode of this is going to be coming out this week.
This week. Wow. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I say that, and I still have some shit to get done on it, and I mean, it will be out this week. Ideally, the reason I haven't set a day is because, look, ideally, I wanted it to come out the same day as X-Men 97 because, spoiler, that is what the episode is about.
Right.
It is a somewhat scripted, but also not really much of my perspective in general as you might be used to. It's going to be, you'll see, man. You'll see. It's a new thing.
There's a lot of special guests. Some of them even know they're in it.
Some of them know they're in it, yeah. And then and then I've also got interview with Pillar of Garbage that he actually does know that he was interviewed
right
yesterday. And that was cool. I just want to give a shout out to Pillar of Garbage for being just like, he not only makes great videos, he's really an awesome guy to talk to. And he has exactly the kind of wisdom and insight you would expect from somebody who makes the content that he does. One thing I want to say that I was surprised by in an interesting way is how he sees his content. It kind of blew my mind. And I'm like, maybe that's why, I don't know. But like, and I can't wait to talk to the initiative about this too. Because like he doesn't see any distinction in his content between when he covers Chud's reactions to something and when he just covers something. He just thinks it's the same thing. Like, in a way, like,
yeah.
For me, there's a clear, delineation between the two types of content. If I were just to cover, like when I did the Hulk video or whatever, it's like that to me is one specific type of content that I make.
Right.
And then everything else is like Chud content, right? And it was really kind of interesting to learn that he sees it that way, and it makes sense, like I get it, because he's like, it's just all, whether I'm responding to some bad faith or just kind of like silly, lazy criticism from some reviewer, or if it's a Chud, then to me it's just all responding to, whatever's going on with this media or the media itself. And it's like, I get it. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And I guess that'll be like an interview I just upload at some point. But
sweet.
But a piece of it. See, I let somebody else interview him a little bit too. Somebody hasn't been on the channel in a long time.
Ooh.
I don't know if I want to spoil it or
Don't
just...
spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Okay.
There's ladies and gentlemen and others, there's a spicy interview from a long, mysterious guest lost to time on this channel that you will see in the first episode of the other Comics Con.
Yeah, he's been around. You probably even seen him, in passing in the background and stuff when I'm on stream, but like he hasn't actually, I haven't given him the floor for a while, but he's got it now.
Sweet.
And he talked to Pillar a little bit, and that's going to be in there. And we're going to be talking about X-Men 97 takes. We're going to be talking about it is not a live show, just to be clear.
Right.
Be lots of different takes.
We're doing a review of it next Sunday.
We are. Oh,
yeah,
of my show.
Well, we'll also do a live review of your show.
Oh God! All right.
Yeah, we're doing both.
But I really do hope that whenever that comes out this week, guys, if you don't have if you're not subscribed, you should be. If you don't have notifications on, please do, and look for that video. And if you see it, please give it a watch all the way through, and give it a like and share it and all that stuff. Comment, because it's it's an important series to me that I really hope takes off. I don't want to see it kind of just like go away in a fart in the wind.
Don't fart in the wind.
I mean, yeah, don't fart in the wind if somebody's behind you, I guess. But like, if they're in front of you, I guess it's safe, really.
Sure, generally. Right, yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I think as far as Gamergate goes, for as much as it has blown up and as impactful it was, the actual story of it is not super complicated, especially once you cut out the fat. And I think there is a good reason to keep track of the fat, and that people have noted the history who are more skilled at that. Wow, Morgan, I can talk, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just reboot for a second. You get it.
Mm-hmm.
But while it's important to document the history, when you peel the onion all the way, it's founded on a lie by people who never cared about games, who just wanted to hate women, and a guy who was obsessed with a girl and made shit up.
And if it had just stayed about that, that would be one thing. But it didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't stay about that, did it?
No, because people, people online got to have their say. And, I recognize the irony of that as the person saying that on a YouTube channel. But you're all here, and I'm happy you came here to hear what I have to say.
Same. I mean, it's at the end of the day, you can only use your critical thinking skills and decide who's giving you the bullshit and who's giving you the good shit. And
I hope we give you the good shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we just hit 2 hours. I don't know how much more, if you had any left.
It was really kind of a short deal, because it just sort of circles, when I was looking into it, and sort of refreshing myself. It really just circles. Like, it goes on for a while, and as we can tell now, it's still kind of going on. But like, the names, the tactics, the message, it doesn't really change. It's just the same shit.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah.
Right. Like it's, and I think in a lot of ways, compared to some of the other moral panics we've covered.
Yeah, they can be. There's for one thing, a lot of the moral panics we covered are things that people didn't have experience with, and it's like this. Generally, you probably had some perspective on it, and about it, and like
we were all probably alive for it,
right? And we could definitely. Marvel stole my slippers. We could definitely spend a lot more time if we wanted to go into this person said this, but that's not, or whatever. It's like. And that's why it was tempting to even ask like Matt Jarbo, hey, do you want to be on for this or whatever? And it's like, and I was like, nah, because I don't really want his perspective. I don't think that it's anything that can first of all, I've heard it. Second of all, I feel like outside perspective in some cases is probably and of course yours isn't exactly outside, Morgan, and neither is mine, but I mean less connected,
right. That's why I referred to it as my perspective from the nosebleeds, because I wasn't in it, but I was in the arena looking down. Byron, the message is that representation is destroying culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's
especially.
I'm sorry, not the message. The message.
Straight white men are losing dominance, is what it is.
Right.
I actually have the graphic that he uses that I use for you know what, I might just go ahead and make that the outro video that we do is just we'll watch Pop Counterculture's inclusion of our drinker video, the Initiative's drinker video from a while back, because it's really good. But yeah,
so folks, that's Gamergate. It was dumb.
Yeah, it's stupid as hell.
But
you know what,
based on bullshit. Pushed for bullshit.
Out of respect for, and just to kind of entice anybody who hasn't made their way over to an Innuendo Studios and watched his series on the alt-right playbook.
Yeah.
Here's just most of these videos are really short, but they're so fucking potent. Just check this out.
For the sake of argument, there's this guy. This just real abomination, total scum-sucking garbage hole, who's running for president. And conservative politicians, pundits, and voters have been laughing their asses off about him. Oh my God, he is such a disaster. He'll never get the nomination, and if he were to get the nomination, no one would ever elect him. They trot him out as a punchline. But November 8 draws nearer and nearer, and he's still not out of the game. And the left is banging on the walls like, hey, that joke you're giving free press to is saying some pretty scary stuff. And the right is like, look, don't waste your breath. We've already accepted that we lost this one. We're certainly not going to bat for this guy, so he's going to lose. And then at the last second, when they do go to bat for him, and he does win, and the left is like, what the absolute heck, my dudes? They go, can't do anything about it now. He's the president. And when, 4 years later, you finally get his ass out of office, the left turns to the right and says, okay, now that he's not president, are you going to acknowledge all the stuff he did? You know, the stuff he said he was going to do, that we warned you he was going to do, and you said we were delusional for thinking he would do, that he did? And they're like, oh my God, Heather, he's not even president anymore? How are you still talking about this? I call this one the slow breakup.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll address that in a minute, but yeah.
It's like when your partner starts canceling date nights and then starts getting home really late and then starts sleeping on the couch, and you keep asking, hey, is there something wrong? And they just say, oh, sweetie, of course not. Work is just running me ragged lately, and when I have time off, I'm too tired to go out, and I get home so late these...
This video has triggered me in 2 different ways so far. It's 3 minutes long, for fuck's sake.
Oh, jeez.
It's like it triggered me with like, yeah, I remember 2016. God damn it. Oh, that whole campaign. I hated it. Because that's like, I at the very beginning of Trump, I was like, this guy's a fucking sideshow. We'll keep our eyes on Ted Cruz. We got to keep our, you know what I mean? Like that was that. Right. But then like pretty quickly I was like, oh no, like he's actually getting a lot of people. I started seeing the online shit that everybody experienced. In favor of Trump, right? And I started getting panicky, and I was like, oh no. So that's triggering that, but then also this whole breakup thing. Yeah, maybe experience something like that once. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
days, I don't want to wake you up by coming to bed. And then one day you get home and their bags are packed and they're like, look, we both saw this coming. You know that thing. You know this happens to everybody, right? It's always not happening until it's already happened.
Let's internalize that statement.
Yep.
It's always not happening until it's already happened. And that's exactly how they make this shit happen. It's exactly how look, like Biden, like he said, Biden has, I'm not sure what the status is right now. I haven't looked into it in a while, but I can't imagine it's much better as far as like the border. Can't imagine it's much better at all. But like the cages and the I don't think they're separating families anymore, at least, but that's barely anything better than what it was. But like they were kind of denying or at least downplaying that whole thing the whole time. And yeah, what other example could we use, right? Like anti-trans genocide. That's not a genocide. There's no, what are you talking about? No genocide. Nobody's just going around systematically killing them. It's like, well, technically you kind of are trying to.
We don't want to take their health care. We just want children protected. We're taking their health care.
Yep.
We don't want to ban them from public. We just want to keep
predators,
sex pests out of bathrooms. We
want to keep men in dresses out of women's bathrooms because this legislation is going to do that somehow. Like
we're for free speech, but we're banning speech.
Yeah, we're banning these books, and we're also calling anybody who says these books, hey, this is not that bad, you're a groomer.
Right.
Anyway.
But we're also going to protect
actual
groomers,
yeah,
like the real ones, not the people just calling groomer, the real. Yeah, Bob
exactly.
Bob mentioning that is, and Democrats have fucking fucked that, fuck, like
it's fucked. Honestly, I mean, I believe that if we do avoid Trump presidency, that's going to be the reason why.
I think so too.
That's just like, because there's definitely a lot of particularly women. It should be more men, but I imagine it's mostly women that are like holding on to that, and they're just like fucking envisioning the fucking election day in their brains, like with anger and righteous fucking anger at that.
Which is good, but it should never have taken that. And also, a lot of those women voted for fucking Trump, and they were warned.
Yep. And that's the thing I like to keep in mind is that not to say that I bank on this, but like we don't know how many people have we'll get into that another time. I did say that Bob of the old ways, we should talk at some point in the server or whatever about what you were talking about earlier and ways we can kind of like try to make content out of that advice and especially going forward through the summer and fall and everything. So hopefully it'll be all for nothing, but yeah.
Well, I think if it's all for nothing, it means it worked, right?
Yep, that's it. Rather like be prepared for nothing than not prepared for whatever the fuck.
Like I learned this in my job working IT. Is that the true sign of a job well done is nobody has anything to say. That's how you know it went right.
Yeah. I mean, more that I was talking about how to get people the research, because it's really easy to sit, because I did this during the 2020 election, was I was like, I had a bunch of links in my description. I still do have some, but like, what does that do? Like, people need to, I don't know, sometimes not have their hands held. That seems, like I'm dismissing them or something, but like, it is helpful, I think, to show people the resources themselves and show people like, this is what you should do. And here's why, like one by one. And if you don't know how to, if you're not registered to vote, just something as simple as that, but also just like, here's how to organize locally. And if you can't do that, because I know I have, plenty of people that, deal with trauma and stuff like that, that are like, also neurodivergent in the audience that aren't going to be able to just go and glad hand and stuff like that, or whatever. So like, there are ways that we can, we'll talk about it.
Moment is skipped over where they would acknowledge they misled you take responsibility for what's happened, or critically, where you could still do something about it. You peel your eyes for this one, you'll see it a lot. This is how conservatives jumped straight from climate change isn't happening to climate change isn't man-made. And now some are trying to jump to maybe it's a good thing.
And that's also how Rush Limbaugh jumped from, oh, cigars aren't fucking bad for you, to dead.
To dead, yes. Good for him. The one good thing the tobacco industry ever did was kill Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, Crawling Chaos, that type of language is not only like not even real, it's also not, doesn't help anything. It's just like it allows you to put them in a box, you know, and just kind of generally for anybody that's like, just dismissing them as this evil thing. It's like they're people. They are people, and
they're worse than the Antichrist because the Antichrist is a prophesized being that in real kind of has no free will, right? It's just like a thing. It's a person that's going to come about and do this thing because that's what the story says.
That's what they have to do. Yeah, it's like,
right.
But these people are just like people that you probably know, some of them that you know at some point weren't terrible people, right? And yeah, that's why I just would discourage that type of thing, because it's easy to call them villains. It's the same thing as like we're kind of seeing a bit of a shift in narrative these days in fiction, where it's less common to hear someone called just a villain or like the bad guy or evil, because it really isn't that simple. Like the things we deal with in reality are tragically that sometimes just that everybody's a blank slate to a degree. You know what I mean?
To a degree, yeah.
You know, we're all influenced by our physiology and genetics and our fucking upbringing and stuff, but like still you can go either way. I believe that most people, even the ones raised in the most fucked up shitty environments, can still go a different way, and vice versa. But anyway,
rhetorically, all these arguments mean the same thing. We decided long ago what we were going to do. Nothing you say will change our course. This conversation is over.
So yeah, it's just powerful ideas that the guy, honestly, and this is what I think I'm going to try to shift some of my content to, is almost like that type of video for anti-fandom.
It's a good length, and not that like I don't mind doing the longer form stuff like we do here, but like sometimes you need a wide array of tactics.
Yeah, I mean, what I would do is just like basically find the time to do like a video, like a short video where it defines a concept or whatever, a tactic, and then just would debut that on a stream, for example. You know,
there
like
you
anyway, you guys are great, all 40 of you, 42 of you.
That's a good. We've had a pretty good turnout the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's been getting pretty good, pretty good. What was the video I said Ed's video? Yeah, let me find that shit. Ed, if you're still in the chat, I hope you're doing all right, man.
Yeah, I hope you're doing good. Danimal, I hope you're okay. I hope we weren't too mean.
You know what? I think Danimal's
just a little mean.
He's been mean to me in DMs before, so like, no, not really. It's fine.
Some drama.
Critical drinker is what I'm looking for. There we go.
The critical stinker.
Yep. Oh, file's too large. Fuck you.
Uh-oh.
All right, we'll play it in the other thing then. That's fine. I don't fucking need you. I don't need your acceptance into that part of the thing when I can do it in the other part of the thing. All right, guys. It seems like maybe this week. I mean, neither do we. Neither do we.
Yeah, I don't.
That's why I'm doing 3 streams a week. I'm not even really. I'm getting paid $91 a month for it via Patreon. Which, by the way, you can follow me on Patreon for free.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/actualfandom, and you get to see some stuff, some uploads and whatnot. You'll probably get to see some of that Pillar of Garbage interview before it's uploaded to YouTube. But also, and on top of that, if you want even cooler stuff and even more stuff, you can also, if you're capable of doing so, have the extra, toss me some coinage,
some hard-earned American dollars.
Innuendo Studios. It's I'll show you the channel here. Innuendo Studios.
They're pretty cool.
Is it they?
I think it's he.
Oh, okay, I thought you said they.
Last I knew
it
was he.
Okay.
But
I
your
was like, oh,
results
no.
may vary.
Yeah, I mean, just like there's so much stuff that you can learn from this about that will save you time and frustration on the internet, because once you see some of the things that he breaks down and describes, like the Gish Gallop and didoing, that was a fun one. I like it's not so bad. Is what that means. Like
I have not actually seen that one, so
it's describing how like you try and say something like if you're to say the Republicans are trying to get rid of trans healthcare or something. They're like, oh, it's not so bad. It's not that bad.
I disagree.
Didoing.
I'm using
you
that.
You get it, right? Like
yeah.
The Dido song. Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, you guys are cool. And mainly because you just are that way. You choose to be, but also
you choose to be
you're
awesome.
Here.
And we're happy you're here.
Thank you, Morgan, for going through this whole process and giving us your perspective and what you found out. And
you're welcome. And thank you for giving me this chance to go back through memory lane and watch my fucking YouTube playlists from 2014.
I think that next week we might do a kind of a chill one, maybe.
Yeah, I think next week we've got X-Men 97 coming out.
We're talking about X-Men next week. It's a good one. And then after that, though, we gotta get serious.
Yeah.
For a while, for some episodes, because we're going to be doing the history of modern conservatism in the U.S. We're going to find out just how they got to where they're at, where instead of engaging with reality, they just do the opposite of that. Instead of giving a shit about America or Americans or anything, and even if in ways that you might disagree with, they just don't care anymore at all. Like we'll find all that out too, slowly, painfully. No. The first, it's going to be a few episodes. It'll be like the first one's going to be we're going to kind of speed run the early 20th century through to the 50s. I'm sorry. Or no, I guess we're going to speed run more to the 80s or what?
We were going to sort of speed run pre-World War II, and then we were going to do John Birch and then jump to the 80s.
Okay. So yeah, so then the first episode is going to be that kind of a speed run through the first half of the 20th century. Then we're gonna the second, it's gonna get John Birchie in the second episode. That might go kind of deep, and that I think that's where we'll start to find a lot of the seeds, the shit seeds planted.
Yeah, if you want a preview of some of the talking points and some of the names that might come up in the Fapcast YouTube channel, where we have the actual live streams saved. The John F. Kennedy Secret Papist episode and the Lavender Scare episode definitely touch on things that are going to be relevant to this.
And then the playlist on my channel, on the actual fandom, should include the one where Ryan covered the HUAC, right?
HUAC, yep.
Yeah. Which is definitely part of it, and we'll touch back on some of that stuff again as we hit it. And then we're gonna have to do a whole episode on fucking Reagan, I think, because
Reagan is gonna be Fun fact: Reagan, gender neutral bathroom now. Very progressive these days.
You mean name?
Huh?
Did you say you meant name, right?
Ronald Reagan.
Oh. Wait.
He's very progressive now. He's a gender neutral bathroom.
He's a bathroom?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, I see what you're saying. Because you can, yeah. I thought you were trying to say that Reagan is a gender neutral name and that you accidentally said bathroom.
No, that Ronald Reagan, his final resting place is a gender neutral bathroom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Ronnie Reagan.
I thought, yeah. But I mean, the other thing is also true. Is that like Reagan could be, it's a gender neutral name.
It's a gender neutral name, yeah.
Why the fuck would you name your kid after that guy? Jesus Christ, come on. I mean,
look, people make bad decisions. This is why everyone, this is like, if you elect me president, a position I am not running for and probably never will, if you elect me president, everyone gets a free name change. One free name change. Because our parents can make mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, because we have a case example, a case study of what happens when you name your kid Reagan. She becomes possessed by a demon named Pazuzu and pukes all over the fucking place and shit, and her head twists around and shit.
And worse than that, if you name your kid Reagan, he might be president and like fuck up America for the next 50 years.
Yeah. Well, even though he was, he was the head of a union just a few years before that. Nonetheless, his mama named him her Regan. I'm gonna call her Regan.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, you guys have a good week and take care of yourselves and one another. And then here's this vid from Ed Pop Counterculture. He is linked in the description, which you should subscribe to that channel as well as others that are there if you're looking for content that's good and not content that's bad. Okay, it's not bad, it's good. All right, peace.
Later.
You know, it's funny to me that Critical Drinker is somebody who advocates so strongly for stoicism when part of being stoic is being a straight talker. But if you look at what Critical Drinker does, he is really good at saying nothing. Of course, he rides the line of plausible deniability, just like all these other assholes. But there's two things that he does that are so blatantly dishonest that nobody should take them seriously if they're aware of this. First and foremost, as I'm sure the other guys have pointed out, it's very rare that the footage you see on screen has anything to do with what he's actually saying. And that's very intentional by having his videos just be a consistent stream of quick 7-second long clips of various different parts of various different movies with various different themes and different plots and different characters and all that, is that he is essentially creating visually suggestive language. It's giving you an idea of something, but not telling you specifically what it is. And in doing so, it's up to you to fill in the blanks as to exactly what those specifics are. 2, the famous image of the message. First of all, when he shows it on screen, he shows it very briefly. It's impossible to take in the entirety of the image any one time he shows it on screen. But if you go download the image and take a look at it, what exactly is the message? What is the unifying theme here? There's a reason why he is not spelling it out for you in the image. This is a Rorschach test. When he shows you this and says this is the message, you decide what that message is. If you actually take Critical Drinker seriously as a movie critic, all you're really saying is that you are exactly as easy to manipulate as he thinks you are.
May Bill Gaines shine his heavenly light upon you and impregnate you with many happy days and joy fetuses. May your anuses be cleansed by the purifying light that exudes from Bill Gaines' eternal dragon phallus. Should you meet your mortal demise this day, go with comfort that you have satisfied the commands of the one true Bill, those being this: read comic books. Fuck the dumb shit. Be yourself. Love each other. Also, read more comics and grow your hair out all goddamn while. Amen.
Actual fandom is not going to stop.